Good evening, 49er faithful. We are back. I am back for the first time with this freaking bandage on my face, but we are here nevertheless between two beards. I'm your host, Rob Schuh. That's my co-host, Randon McMahon. Randon, at least your face is not battered and bruised as mine is. But how you feeling today, my man?
The commando's in the house, brother, and it's been a good day. I mean, been out in the sun, so I might be a little more rosy than you. I mean, we're both pale individuals, but I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're coming into this pod, bracing the injuries, man. You're playing through some
playing through it.
You were questionable coming into the day. You're playing through it, and as all fantasy football players realize, playing through the questionable is you got them stones, man. You got them huevos.
I might have been listed as doubtful coming into this one. It could have been worse than questionable, but especially when I took off the bandage and I was like 6 freaking stitches. Like I thought it was going to be 2. For those that don't know, had a quick procedure just to take a little something off the top. Because I didn't need that on my face, apparently. But no, it's funny how many people on Twitter, I put out a picture of it on Monday when I had the procedure, and immediately, like, I want to say about 20% of the people who responded were like, Rob got punched in the face. And it just surprised me, the number of people that believed that a guy like me, so peaceable, would act in such a way that potentially I had gotten myself knocked the F out.
Well, I mean, you don't drink, and
I don't.
And you're a very passive, optimistic person. I think the odds would be ever in your favor for not being in a fight.
Yes, I have been knocked out a couple of times in my life. Someone commented and in their handle was 209. And I remarked the last time I got knocked out was in the 209. I actually got knocked out a couple of times in the 209. It's a different area code, let me tell you. But I was a different person back then as well. I was a little more of a rabble rouser in my college years, and it's been a long time since then. So no, did not get assaulted, did not get physically assaulted in any way except by that doctor who apparently butchered my face. No, it'll be good in a couple of days. I'll be right as rain by the time we get to the draft. That's what I'm excited about.
Well, eye black or bandage over the nose. It's game day gear right now.
Yes, it is game day gear. I thought about bringing on the frickin' eye patch and just going, the full Monty on it. But those that are here in the chat, very excited. We've got folks coming in. Stivers 209 was checking in on me earlier. Hey, Rob, how you doing? I'm doing well. I appreciate you asking. The Golden Fang is here. Loving it. Charles Thurman, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Hello, Rob. Hope you're feeling better. They better sign Deebo. I am, and I agree.
And we will be talking about that in depth.
Yes, we will in just one moment, as a matter of fact. That's the lead off, Randon. We can't bury that lead, right? We got to get right into that.
Let's do it.
Dr. Random coming in to say hello. Raphael 562 Niners coming back in. Chris Royal is in the house. Shane Alston has come in to say what's up. Alan, another sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in, wishing us well and telling the Niners not to trade Deebo Samuel. Bomber coming in just to let us know, no, Deebo's as good as gone at this point.
I want to shout out Bomber T. He came on Cerberus Sports the other night for the A's.
Bomber T representing the A's.
Yeah. So shout out to him for coming on my channel. Appreciate you guys.
Love it. Truth suggesting, hey, Rob, perhaps you could have used some shades like Jesse Naylor did. We had this debate beforehand, Randon. This is, yes, there it is. Tee it up. We gave it some thought. That Niner guy coming in here, nothing worse than when a doubtful player is on your bench and blows up. Glad you're back, Rob.
Yeah.
Yes, I surprised. I was listed as doubtful.
That's the quote of the day. Quote of the day right there, Niner guy. Quote of the day. That's great. Yeah.
And Connor coming in to recognize, yes, the 209, baby. LOL. I'm telling you. I am telling you. Luke Walsh with the suggestion at Rob Schuh. Hurt your nose while beating up Seattle linemen again? Yes. That would be a better reason than the one that I have. That's for sure. All right. We've been teasing it. It's the title of the freaking show. It's what we're going to talk about. It's Deebo, the wide back ongoing Deebo drama, unfortunately. The thing I want to kick this off with, Randon, is like my first sentiment is buckle up, 49ers fans, because it feels like, yes, this is contentious and it's not going to be over tomorrow, right? I mean, Randon, do you see this just magically materializing into a deal within the coming weeks? Or is it more likely that this thing drags out to when the Niners have historically gotten these deals done sometime in July after a lot of pain on our part?
It's a lot of pain for the Niners fans because I'm going to say Deebo's the best wide receiver since T.O.
Yeah, I agree.
On this roster. And that's what, over 26 wide receivers drafted to the Niners. Like, that's a lot to be garbage. And he's the only serviceable outside of Crabtree, who was serviceable. But outside of that, Deebo's the only other wide receiver who's actually done anything worthwhile. And so, yeah, like Niners fans are upset or anxious or whoever. And the drama is no more prevalent because it's online now with the multimedia atmosphere that we're in. Thank you very much, because we thrive on that. But
it does allow us to talk like this, doesn't it?
But it also, puts a little butterflies in Niners fans' stomachs.
Yeah. Yep. And to me, we got to harken back to the George Kittle conversation, right? That got contentious as well. And it worked out in the long run, but it was painful. And it didn't get as bad as to where George Kittle was cleansing his social media of 49ers pictures. And yet that's where we are on Deebo Samuel. I liked what Michael Irvin had to say about the importance of Deebo Samuel to the 49ers. This rings true for me. He said this on 95.7 The Game on Tuesday, just yesterday. Coming in, Michael Irvin said, if I have the chance to leave the kind of mark that Deebo can leave, that Deebo will leave in this league and on a franchise, an organization like the San Francisco 49ers, I have to consider that, Irvin added. I say that on Deebo's side. I say this on San Francisco's side. If you let me walk into any damn locker room in this league, you give me 15 minutes in that locker room, I can tell you which player that team cannot do without. The player that has to be on that team. When I watch San Francisco, Deebo is that guy. That rang so true for me that on both sides, this makes too much sense not to get the deal done. For Deebo, he is better playing within Shanahan's offense. For San Francisco, they are better with Deebo Samuel as our wide back. To me, don't let contention and drama get in the way of the right decision.
You look at the NFC, and last year Carolina in the first 4 weeks was considered a playoff team, was considered a potential Super Bowl winner. And they're like, oh, Darnold turned the page, all this kind of stuff. It wasn't because of Darnold. It was because CMC was in the lineup. And CMC has the same impact on the game that Deebo does, because the fact that he is both in the receiving and in the rushing game. And, obviously they're different positions when they line up or in the depth chart or fantasy football, whatever have you, but they do the same things in both sides. They both play in different parts of the field. And when CMC was out of that lineup, their team suffered. Yes. And so a lot of people would say that Jimmy G's a mediocre quarterback. A lot of people say that Sam Darnold's a garbage quarterback, but regardless, they have an elite playmaker that made their team great. For the Panthers, it was only a couple weeks. For the Niners, it was up into the NFC Championship game. And that's why a lot of fans are worried that the fact that this is such an elite athlete, player, whatever verbiage you want to use, might be gone from that team.
It's wild. It's wild, man. All right. So the question I want to ask next is how much is too much? The fit is perfect. It's perfect for San Francisco. It's perfect for Deebo. But what's that price tag? Because there has to be a cutoff. But before we get to that, I do want to get into a little bit of what's going on in the chat. Bay Area Baller came in to say what's up. Got to give a little nod to the Bay Area Baller coming in. And those being kind. Bryant Culp coming in. Glad you are back, Rob Bryant. Thank you for that. Honestly, means a great deal. Alan, another sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. I hope the surgery went well and you are on the mend. I am. It may not look it at this point in time, but I am definitely on the men. Getting back to the Deebo conversation, that Niner guy coming in at Rob Schuh. I am sorry, but if they trade Deebo and get a haul in this year's draft, there's not another receiver or two receivers in this class that can or will be Deebo. It is going to get done in June.
So I want to go with that. No, I want to go with that because the fact that fans think, hey, we traded DeForest Buckner and we drafted Kinlaw, it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1. Like the fact that if you trade Deebo this year, we're going to get into that, what the cost would cost.
Yeah.
But if you're saying, hey, I need to trade Deebo and get a wide receiver right away, then you're going about this the wrong way. If we've been saying in the draft at 61, BPA, if they get a first round pick, they still need to go BPA for needs. If wide receiver is the number one need, then so be it. But if it's strong safety, if it's interior offensive lineman, if it's Lindenbaum, who's the best center to come out of the draft in the last decade, then you need to go in that direction and not try to replace Deebo with a pick that you get. Just like they shouldn't have tried to replace DeForest Buckner with Kinlaw.
I think that's reasonable. I think what you're preaching there is strong team building dynamic, right? That is what you want to go about. You want to take best player available. You don't want to be pigeonholed by what your specific needs are. But I do think there would be some desperation by the 49ers in attempting to replace Deebo. And I think it would force them to at least reach moderately for a wide receiver. So I agree with both sentiments. I agree with you in saying that you should be going best player available. I also agree with the take from that Niner guy here in pointing out that you're not going to be able to replace that talent. No. And so I think you're looking at both of those two statements as true when you make the trade. And you're right. We have to establish what that cutoff is and what that value would be before it becomes relevant. We're going to touch on that.
It's like saying, hey, I've tasted the best pizza my entire life.
Right.
Let's try to have another pizza. Well, you might not ever find that, but you could have great tacos, or you could have great sushi, or you could have
exactly. You could go out and get some great sushi the next night and be equally satiated.
Yeah.
Chris Royal with the super chat. I think because Deebo has a huge social media following, I think this will spur the Niners to act quicker than they typically do. Well, we just had a suggestion of June being a potential date that this gets done. Chris Royal believes that it gets done a little bit sooner. So we're going to talk about how much is too much to pay for Deebo. We're going to talk about how much is too much to turn down in a trade package. But what do you see as the potential deadline for this? I'm still holding out that July seems like the time the Niners have historically got it done, and I don't see them folding to the pressure. So that's going to remain my target for having to be patient personally up until July. Do you think the 49ers are feeling the pressure? Do you think they'll get the deal done sooner than that?
I think they are feeling the pressure. I think they also will get the deal done when they want to. And Chris Royal is bringing up a topic that you and I talked about off air. And what is the responsibility of the player versus the responsibility of the organization? How do people view each interaction? And we've talked about that. Most people blame the player over the organization.
That's wild to me. They side with the billionaires.
Yeah. And so, I briefly looked at our topics. If that's a full topic, then we'll go into it then. But I think that it's something to look at. The fact that people are automatically siding with the Niners and saying that, hey, they offered you comparable value and you want 25 or 30 million. How do you know that? How do you know they didn't say, hey, you're a running back and we want to pay you $10 million? Like you have no idea, and you're automatically siding with the Niners over Deebo when you don't have any idea how the conversations went.
Right. I got busy reading the comments. Admittedly, first of all, there's
a lot of great comments right now.
It grabbed me.
That's the best
truth
one.
Is talking about Rob is phenomenal. So let's just reflect on that for a moment. Let's just soak that one in. It was this one that caught me. Bay Area Baller was saying the pace of this show is phenomenal. It's because we're fired up. It is because we're talking about Deebo Samuel, and we're talking about
we're greased right here, and we're greased right here.
We're talking about entertaining the idea of how much is too much for one of my favorite players. I mean, for the last over a year now, I have had this freaking picture of Deebo on my phone.
Bicycle.
It has been Deebo all day for me. So the idea of letting him go is tough. We'll get back into the comments. I want to ask that question I've been putting off for too long. Where is too much for you? How much is too much to pay Deebo Samuel? What's that magic figure in your mind?
I think they need to go with a middle ground aspect. Obviously, they'll eventually get there. More guaranteed money, less overall money, right?
Okay.
So because he's being thrown into the running back mix and more running backs get injured than wide receivers, give him more guaranteed money,
right,
or a higher percentage, not total guaranteed, a higher percentage of his overall contract. So you're saying, hey, you're worth maybe 22, 25 million, but we're going to give you, 70% guaranteed, versus, the overall. But I think they need to give him a higher guaranteed, because as much as Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Diggs are perennial all pros, and I will say they are better wide receivers than Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel has a higher percentage of the total offense of the Niners.
Yes.
And he's put in a much more precarious situation. And this is another thing right here. How old is Deebo Samuel? 27.
Right.
How old is the rest of the wide receivers getting paid in his division? 24. Like, this is his last contract.
Yeah, it could be. This could be his only big contract, right? So from Deebo's angle, you got to consider that. By the way, I got to bring this in. I mean, it's always going to be, when it's clever, it gets in. Nick from the Mo did not see the beginning of the show, but is perpetuating the idea that Rob got socked in the face.
He fucked that dude up. Sorry.
What? That's okay. You can drop the occasional F-bomb. Plot twist. Rob actually got into a bar fight. Nick from the Mo reporting it directly. He must have been there to see it. No, we established earlier Rob was not struck in the face except by a scalpel. Bomber T saying not $1 over 22 mil. So this is the launching point for me. I actually disagree with you, Randon, in that coming at it from the team perspective. If I'm Deebo, I agree with you. I want my guaranteed money to be up. If I'm coming at it from the team perspective, I actually want to try and get Deebo with the ego trip. I want to get him with the average annual value, but keep his guarantees low in case he does get injured. So I would actually target that $25 million AAV to get that value up, to give him the ability to spread that all over social media. But I would try to keep the guaranteed money down just in case, protecting against that potential injury in that case.
You want the Tyreek Hill treatment?
Yeah, a little bit. I do.
His last year of his deal, he's making $46 million. He'll never see that.
Yeah, so right. It'll get renegotiated at some point.
Yeah, so yeah, the Tyreek Hill treatment's fine. Like, if that's what he wants, he wants the ego boost, or does he really want the guaranteed money?
Yeah,
because look at Kirk Cousins, right? Has never set the market on quarterback value, but his contract has almost been 100% guaranteed all this time. And everybody's saying, oh, Deshaun Watson set the table with 100% guaranteed money. But Kirk Cousins, man, been sitting silky in Minnesota with all this guaranteed money to play mediocre football.
Yeah.
And he hasn't set the table with overall value, but he's 100% guaranteed. And you bring up an interesting point that ties into Melvin here, right? Melvin talking about, would you agree that if we pay Deebo that $25 million, we're not going to be able to play him like last season? And if we can't, can we justify the huge payday? So you're talking about, Kirk Cousins gets all that money as a guarantee, but then you get sort of that mediocre level of play from him. Is that a concern that with Deebo, he balled out in order to get this bag? You're really not going to push him to his limit like you did last year. He's not going to push himself to his limit like he did last year. So to Melvin's point, is it a mistake to give that big of a bag if you're not going to be able to justify it by his play after the bag? He was a top wide receiver in the first 8 weeks. Like, he was. And then he became more of a running back. And so it could be the same way next year, right? You got Ray McLeod. You got all these other guys. You got another running back there. They could try to push this lineup for the first 8 weeks and have real running backs, real quote unquote running backs playing back there and limit Deebo's exposure until the second half of the season and in the playoffs. Because in the playoffs, who cares? like, no offense to Deebo, but if he tears his ACL in the Super Bowl because he's rushing for the 13th time, I'll be sad, but you're trying to win a football game.
Yeah, I think
And
any player is at that point probably willing to lay their bodies on the line. Like no one wants to suffer an injury, obviously, and we would never wish that on anyone. And yet, in that moment, I'm guessing the player would give everything in that moment and risk the injury.
Yeah, an extreme example is what I'm giving at, but for the most part, I think Deebo realizes like, hey, I need to be a wide receiver first, but the fact that you guys put me in this position last year, probably unbeknownst to him, going into the season, you put my body in the line, and this is my last chance being a 27-year-old. I need to get paid.
Yep. I agree. And I do want him to get paid. Let me state that emphatically up front. Joshua coming in with the super chat here, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Deal will get done, but still under contract. Got to be careful. NFL is still a business. So I think this is talking about Deebo's mindset right now, right? He's sort of taking the nuclear option in deleting his social media, in applying pressure to the San Francisco 49ers. But Joshua is correctly pointing out here that Deebo is under contract for this following year, and then the team would still have control with the franchise tag. But I do think it's fair to point out here, Randon, that neither Deebo nor the team probably want to go down that route. I think both the player and the team would rather get a deal done this offseason.
I think they will. I mean, they should. I mean, like I said, he's 26 now, but he'll be 27 midseason, and so like he's late to the contract negotiations, right? So DK Metcalf, he's I think 24. Like he could sign a 4-year deal and still be in his prime. Like that's not the same case for Samuel. Samuel's got to get his money now.
He does need to get his money now. We got another super chat coming in. Jaguayo56, Sneakerhead here on the channel. At Rob Schuh, great to have you back. Didn't Lynch tell us that money was budgeted for Deebo and Bosa? Maybe something like 23 to 26 per year. He will be back. I love the optimism because I think that's where it should be. I still think that 49ers fans should believe that Deebo will be back, that the team may need to pony up a substantial amount of money in order to do that, but that they will get the deal done. By the way, I think Swan Song has pointed out in the comments, just to call it out as a correction, Deebo is currently 26, but I think what Randon had indicated is also true in that Deebo will be 27 the next time he steps on the field, I believe. I think he turns 27 before next year. Yeah. But yes, so to me, I think this is where 49ers fans should be, that hey, the front office has budgeted to get this done. It is going to be more expensive than they previously thought, and there's still a strong likelihood that they get the deal hammered out. Yeah,
but they also said they budgeted for DeForest Buckner, and he got traded. So
they did say that.
DeForest Buckner is going to be a perennial Niner, and he got traded. So
all right. What do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? Swan Song coming in 25 annual per year, 40 million guaranteed at signing, 30 million in incentives in year 2 based on production and incentives, prorated, not all or nothing. I mean, I feel like he's going to want a little more guaranteed.
Yeah. That doesn't get it done for Deebo.
No.
That's
25. The 25 does, right? Like but
the 40 million guaranteed isn't even a year and a half worth of that money.
Right.
You know, I'm assuming he's saying 4 years based on the other wide receivers have got 4-year contracts, but that puts him last. Like, does he really want to go that route? You know, like, doesn't make sense for him.
Yeah, I think the 25 a year is a good average that he can hang his hat on. I think it's probably closer to 50 or 60 guaranteed that Deebo's really going to be angling for. And if I'm the Niners, I'm trying to limit it to around 50.
Yeah, but you're saying 30 million incentives in this tweet. Deebo's saying I already did it. I'm the most valuable player on this offense. And then you're going to a rookie quarterback or a first-year starter, and I'm the most valuable player on this offense, and you're going to shortchange me? It makes no sense. And we've been talking about this, or at least I have. I got so upset 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that the fact that they're not doing enough to put Trey in the right frame of mind or the right station to go about this season.
Yeah, setting him up for success.
Yeah. Why would you get rid of your best wide receiver? Like, you're not doing – a team – wins championships by having a rookie under a rookie contract. Patrick Mahomes, et cetera, Russell Wilson, all that kind of stuff. You're not doing that by trading away Deebo. I know everybody has a price, and we'll get to that.
Everybody does, and that's coming up next for sure.
But this deal right here, $30 million in incentives, is a slap in the face of Deebo. It is.
Yeah, I do think
he's
they'll
the
have
best
to
player
go more
on the
than
roster.
that. Johnny Robinson here, 4 years, $70 million guaranteed. That would be the other end of the spectrum. That would be
right under Tyreek Hill.
That would be what Deebo is looking for right there, for sure. Chris Royal coming in with the super chat. Adams and Hill for sure are better receivers, but Deebo is the better football player. Don't mess around and get it done, Niners. I love that sentiment. I completely agree with him that Adams and Hill may be better wide receivers, quote unquote. But if you're looking at total overall impact of being a football player, I'm giving the edge to Deebo Samuel, specifically what he can do within San Francisco's offense. And I totally agree. Don't mess around. Make sure this deal gets done at some point. That's the top priority for me. Not the couple of mil that you can save, not the draft picks that you can freaking get. I'm getting this deal done if it's up to me.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a hot take, but I don't think Adams has anywhere near successful of a season with Derek Carr. Not because Derek Carr is a bad quarterback, but because Aaron Rodgers and Adams had the best mind meld of any quarterback wide receiver I've ever seen. They almost looked like they had Bluetooth headsets.
Yeah.
And it was, hey, this guy's pressing me in by 6 inches on the inside on the break. I'm going to do an out and 40 yards down the field. And it didn't look like they ever even did anything at the line of scrimmage. Like, he just looked at Devontae Adams. Devontae was like, yeah, I know what you're doing. And then
wild. Mind meld.
Best mind meld I've ever seen. So obviously Carr was his quarterback in college, and we're not a Raiders podcast, but I think that his value will go down. Hill, people won't like me for saying this, but I think Hill could do exactly what Deebo does. He has a burner, and he ran a lot of stuff out of the backfield. He probably doesn't have that size to run in between the tackles like Deebo does. But he's physical, and he's a better downfield receiver than Deebo is. So
yeah.
But Deebo had Jimmy G and Tyreek Hill had Patrick Mahomes, so you could make that
slight difference. Difference, Randon.
Just a little bit. Yeah,
just a little. All right, Tassio coming in here at Rob. You think they'd give more guaranteed to Deebo than to Trent? They've never given more than 50 mil guaranteed before. I think that's the NFL, right? You have to continue to progress in the amount of guarantees that you're going to give. And these resetting deals within the wide receiver market were unprecedented. So the closer we get to this precipice of the cap exploding, the more and more these deals are going to follow suit. They're going to explode as well. So I think that the amount you've given out in guarantees when you're looking in the rearview mirror is always going to seem small and insignificant compared to the newest, latest, greatest contract. So yes, I would agree that in the past, they wouldn't have given out a deal like this, but in the past, you didn't have these record deals having already been given out to other wide receivers.
I agree with that. I mean, it's a latest and greatest type game. And I think, a lot of people aren't really saying this is, what does Shanahan think about this thing? Right? Like, is it he made Deebo great and I can make any other receiver this great? Or is it Deebo is the best, football player in the National Football League? Is it Trent Williams? Hey, he solidifies our offensive line, but hey, we also had Tom Compton on the right side, and we were the number 5 rushing attack in the NFL. So what is the organization thinking about this whole thing is going to be fascinating to me, and how much guaranteed money they give, and will they eventually, concede to what Deebo is saying?
It's definitely going to be interesting to watch. Philip coming in, summing it up nicely. At Rob, Lynch's tagline is, let's make a deal. I trust Lynch to make a mutually beneficial deal with Deebo, probably at training camp. I hope that's the truth. All right, let's talk a little bit about what would be too much to turn down. If you get to a point where you're above that 25 million average per year, or whatever it is you're comfortable with for Deebo Samuel, whatever that guaranteed amount, if his camp is standing firm and you're starting to get calls on the other line, Randon, and maybe there's a call coming in from the Jets, maybe there's a call coming in from Miami. Who knows where it's coming from, but the phone is freaking ringing, man. What's your asking price? Like, where are you comfortable actually saying, yes, Deebo is a critical piece to our offense, and I can't turn down this deal?
If he's asking for more than Tyreek Hill, I say good riddance. No, that's a harsh. I say thank you for your time, and that's too much.
I'm glad you adjusted that because we could have had words after that.
Because Tyreek Hill's a perennial All-Pro, multiple All-Pro seasons. I don't think he's ever had a season under 1,000 yards. Like, he's been fantastic. And so, like, I just don't think that he's that level of player. But we'll see. I mean, I think Tyreek Hill means just as much to the Chiefs offense as Deebo does to the Niners, in a different way. And the fact that they have MVS and Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be as good. They're going to lose a big piece. And so for my benefit, obviously Tyreek Hill is not taking as many snaps out of the backfield, but Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball over 40 yards more than Jimmy Garoppolo is, and Tyreek Hill is the fastest receiver in football. So
he damn well is.
He means just as much to that offense. And so for me, saying, hey, Deebo, you've done it 1 year. Tyreek Hill's a perennial All-Pro for multiple seasons. You don't deserve that amount of money. That would be where my breaking point would be, is if he's asking more than Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill, even though they just signed their extensions. That would be my breaking point.
And if he gets to that breaking point, are you then looking for a comparable trade package like the Kansas City Chiefs got in return for Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've been looking at it and everybody's talking about it. Like, it based on the draft model, right? If the Jets gave up every one of their second round picks, it'd be similar to a top 10 pick, right? And so we saw how much the Niners choked when it was, Kinlaw's still in his rookie contract, so I'm not going to, but he's been injured. But I'm saying is, like, you put one stick in the fire in a top 10 pick over 4 second round picks, who in this draft is a pretty high ask, right? You could get multiple starters. You could get a wide receiver or 2 wide receivers, a strong safety, whatever, etc. Then maybe you look at it, because nobody's untradeable. I mean,
that's very true.
Wayne Gretzky is the best hockey player to ever play the game, and he got traded twice.
Yeah, it pains me to say that. It pains me to admit that with the level of attachment I have to Deebo Samuel. It pains me to say it, but you're right. Like, nobody's untradeable. Everyone has a price tag. For me, it would need to be at the level of the Tyreek Hill trade. Like, it's got to blow me away like that, to where you say to yourself, we're being compensated as though Deebo is a top 3 wide receiver in this league. Because I think he has the potential to be that going forward. Like, in this offense, I truly believe year in, year out, should he stay healthy. And that's something you got to say about every NFL player. He could be that guy. So to me, you got to blow me away with the trade package.
So, I mean, for you, let's turn this around. You've been asking me a lot of questions on, obviously, and I've been rambling because I'm excited about this. This is a hot topic. But what is your breaking point? Like, where is your guaranteed or base salary measurement? And then if I were the Jets or whatever team, like, what would be your asking price?
I mean, again, for the trade package, I'm looking for something similar to what came over in the Tyreek Hill deal. To me, what gets me to that point is, it's tough to say. I would concede on many of these things. I think it's the guaranteed. When people start talking about the guaranteed pushing up north of 60 million, that to me is a concerning point. That to me feels like something the San Francisco 49ers may not actually concede. I don't think they're going to get to 70 million. 60 feels like out of the realm of possibility. Somewhere in the 50s as far as guaranteed, that feels right. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 25, 26 as far as average per year. But that's not a real figure, right? I mean, it's the guarantees that we really need to focus on, especially for a player like Deebo, where you have the one extremely great year surrounded by some minor question marks in that regard. So I would be focused on the guaranteed money. If it goes north of 60 million, I think that's probably the breaking point. And again, I'm looking for that sort of trade compensation that comes back from the Tyreek Hill trade. I mean, and that seems unreasonable to me. Like, that's the type of trade package I don't anticipate getting done. We got some super chats I want to get to real quick. official BNA Music 88 coming in to compliment the shirt. Zag, that Circa Survive shirt. Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Joshua coming in with the cap going up. Is there any repercussions having every positional player making top of the market money? Where is the line drawn? I mean, the cap is a loose set of rules that you can operate within, but within those parameters, you can get creative. You just look at what the Rams do within those parameters compared to other teams. So you can put as many top end salaries as you want. The difference between the Rams and the Niners is the Niners have some mid-tier players that are making more moderate contracts. The Rams are like all high-end and all low-end players. Like they just don't have any middle class. The Niners have some middle class, which I think you want some middle class. You want some of those players that you've captured on a deal before they got to Deebo's level.
Yeah, I mean, there's both ways you look at it. I mean, obviously the Rams are the figurehead of what they're doing. It's never been done before. They don't have a first round pick until I'm dead. And so, it's just something to look at where most of the time in modern history, like you try to jam pack your roster with high level players on a rookie deal, not with a quarterback on a rookie deal, right? So Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, all those guys have won championships under their rookie contract because the rest of the roster was stacked. And that's the number one thing for me that I've been saying is that they need to put Trey Lance in the best position and front load the shit out of Deebo's contract to give him the best team possible to succeed. Because, hey, like I said earlier in the chat, who's the only quarterback or who's the only wide receivers that they've drafted that have been successful since T.O.? Crabtree and Deebo Samuel.
Painful.
It's painful. So who's to say? Like everybody has like, the positive mindset. Oh, like we could draft a Jamar Chase. Well, there ain't any wide receivers in the top 10, let alone if we have a top 10. Like, oh, well, we don't need a top 10 pick. We'll get Justin Jefferson in the teens. Well, how many wide receivers were drafted in the teens that never made it?
Right.
Like there's lots of people that never work out. But you always want to remember the positives, right? And so you're looking at it. You're looking at it like, hey, right now, and this is not even Deebo Samuel. This is a Trey Lance fact. Top 5 quarterbacks, only 2 have MVPs in the last 20 years. 2 of all the quarterbacks drafted in the top 5 have had an MVP in the 20-year span. So just the draft is a crapshoot, and we have a perennial All-Pro in Deebo Samuel, and have an opportunity to pay him to set Trey Lance up for success. And I think that's the more guaranteed route. Now, obviously, there is a trade value and a money break. Will the Niners be too stingy? We'll see.
We shall see. Harris asking the critical question, what happened to Rob's nose? In case you missed it at the beginning, no, I did not get punched in the face. Yes, I did have a minor surgery. I got 6 stitches right below here. It doesn't look all that pretty when I take the bandage off, but later this week, I will be rolling. I'll be rocking the stitches because the stitches are kind of like a pirate theme type of thing. Maybe even
stitches get beautiful women.
Yes, there we go. That's what we need. Yeah. Syard coming in here, sneakerhead here on the channel. Why do we want to keep Deebo? As if Marcus Johnson isn't an elite wide receiver who can more than make up for the loss of Deebo. And Syard, that doesn't even mention Malik Turner. I mean, Marcus Johnson, Malik Turner, boom. Those 2 wide receivers the Niners just signed have already replaced what we're going to lose in the Deebo Samuel trade. No, that's heavy sarcasm laid on there by Syard.
And I'm stretching for camp as we speak, so.
We will talk about the fabulous Malik Turner. It'll take us all of 60 seconds to cover that topic. Jaguayo 56, sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob Schuh. Isn't the point of building a championship team to draft players that turn into great players, and the team has to expect it to pay trade? Needs Deebo. I do agree that is your ideal. You draft quality players, you develop those players that you draft, and then you pay them what they're worth. That's how team building goes in my book. And sure, you will reach a point if you continue to draft successfully that you can no longer pay those players. But the Niners are not there yet. And I agree with Michael Irvin that San Francisco needs Deebo as much as Deebo needs San Francisco.
Exactly. And the fact that there's only one position to ever have over a 50% success rate to be a Pro Bowler, which is interior offensive line drafted in the first round. So like everybody's saying, oh, well, let's trade Deebo for a first round pick. And you're in your head, like I said, you're thinking that person's going to be Jamar Chase or Jefferson, when in reality, it's a coin flip. And you already have a perennial all pro in Deebo Samuel.
Yes, you do. You see me smiling. It's because I'm reading these comments. NorCal Bill, Rob to the UFC confirmed. Yes, Tony Foster. No, I have stitches, but I have never snitched. Tony saying snitches get stitches. I have bit my tongue and done a night in the clink just to keep from spilling those acquaintances. No, I'm kidding.
Don't throw that juju up in here.
Do not. And we've got folks that think I'm so pretty that potentially I'm going the nose job route. No, unfortunately, no nose job, no punches in the face. Definitely a battle scar, as Javon points out here. But just a quick procedure, taking care of a little bit of the skin cancer. That bullshit. Get that out of here. Ellis 10 coming in just to be kind. Just
$2. Yeah.
To be kind. Ellis, appreciate that. Absolutely appreciate that. All right, so we've killed it on the Deebo topic, but we got one more angle. One more angle, Randon.
Let's do it.
We don't want no scrub. We don't want no scrub. All right, so this is about, obviously, Deebo Samuel scrubbing his social media. Does this actually work as a negotiation tactic? Like, this has become pretty commonplace. You see Kyler Murray has now used it. Other players have sort of hinted at it, but Deebo went the full Monty, right? I mean, he started to clear it, and then people started to talk about it, and they're like, oh, but he still has a few pictures left. Immediately, he was like, oh, yeah? You want those few pictures gone? Gone. Out of here. Is this a successful negotiation tactic? Does this backfire at all on Deebo with the fan reaction?
I don't really know. The fact that in the aspect of management, right? I'm not an executive for the Niners. I don't know how they perceive this. But for me, it's the modern United States. It's the modern world, and social media plays a huge part in that. And so immediately, some guy who's monitoring Deebo's Twitter or Instagram like it's his job said that he doesn't follow the Niners within like an hour of it happening. Like, right. That's all he has to do in life is follow Deebo and what he's looking at. He
just goes back and refreshes it and makes sure that the Niners are still there.
But as soon as that the news dropped, everybody's like, oh, Deebo's getting traded, right? Just like he's like, hey, I need a realtor in Miami. Dude, right. He makes millions of dollars. Like, he's trying to find a house that doesn't have a 30 or 50% tax rate as California.
Totally. He wants a primary residence in a state that doesn't have a state income tax.
Yeah. So like people like, oh, you're going to Miami. Oh, McDaniel's going there. Like, oh, they're all freaking out. Like, for me, it's like, is it a modern thing? Yeah. It gets the fan base up in arms.
Yeah. Look at this. Johnny talking about it. Yes, it works. Look at us talking about him right now.
I remember Kittle's contract and Warner's contract talks, right? Everybody was talking about, hey, they should get done. What is it going to be? All this kind of stuff, but there is an active conversation of ever trading them, or it was never active conversation of what is he worth, or the player controlling the narrative, and that's what I want to talk about. So right now, Deebo Samuel's controlling the narrative of his negotiation by fan interaction. Do you think that it is a positive negotiation tactic? Do you think that it's a modern negotiation tactic? And then how do you view it in relation to other contract negotiations that we've seen for the Niners recently?
I think it is successful in that point that it does hold the fan base. It allows the fan base to hold the 49ers feet to the flames, right? We apply the pressure for Deebo. Deebo does this one act, and now all of a sudden he's got thousands of voices yelling for him. But it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of a certain percentage of fans that are not yelling at the organization, but are yelling at Deebo, right? They are taking the side of the billionaires and saying, you're not a team first guy. You're all about you, right? The narrative shifts. And so I think that it accomplishes what he hopes to accomplish. he is okay with that percentage of the fan base being incensed that he would dare to, create this standoff between he and the team. To me, it comes at a cost, but it comes at a reasonable cost. And I do think it's something we will see more and more going forward. What we're watching here is football changing in front of our eyes to become more like the NBA in regard to top level talent being able to force their way out of poor situations with teams, to force the contractual agreement that they want, to get terms that they want. I mean, hell, we just watched Deshaun Watson get that kind of guaranteed money with all those question marks hanging over his head. So this to me is a generational shift for the entire sport. And I think it's intentional. Deebo knows what he's doing. He knows it comes with a cost, and he's okay with that cost because it's probably going to earn him, 10 or 20 million more guaranteed than he would have gotten otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, and nobody questions the organization. Like,
no,
how do we know?
Look at this. Connor coming in makes the fans hate you.
Yeah, makes the fans hate you, but nobody questions the organization. How do we know that they didn't say, "Hey, Deebo, you had more touchdowns rushing than you had receiving, so we're gonna pay you like a running back who has no value in the league. Nobody cares about running backs. We're gonna offer you $12 million."
Right.
After you're seeing all these wide receivers getting paid, we're going to offer you $12 million and maybe 20%, $3 or $4 million. We don't know that.
And I think what you're pointing out here is not that that's at all likely, right? I don't think the Niners came out and did that. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot. But the point is that we don't know.
The
point is that we're unaware.
The organization accountable.
Right.
They don't think that it's the organization's fault for this thing. They automatically assume Deebo is being selfish.
Yeah.
And that might not be the case. Deebo might say, "Hey, I just saw Christian Kirk make $21 million.
Right.
And he's never even had a season close to what I've had. I deserve 25. And like, why is that unreasonable? Like he might not even be using Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams as a bargaining chip. He might be using, hey, Christian Kirk is getting paid all this money, and I took you to 2 straight NFC championships. Like, a lot of people don't realize that even though he was injured his first year, in the playoffs he was sound, and he only missed 1 game.
Yeah.
And it just like, yeah, I understand the injury history, but it's a broken bone. It wasn't an ACL or soft tissue. It was a broken foot bone, which happens. And
he does have some of the soft tissue injury concerns, right? He's got those thick legs that are prone to a quad
but it's not an ACL
or
an MCL, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So all I'm saying is that it's like you're automatically assuming Deebo's being an unreasonable one. And dude, I'm an A's fan. We've sold off every player. Our greatest contract came in 2005, and it's not 2005 anymore. Our salary this year is the same it was in 1989. To tell me that owners don't have it in for making money is a false statement. So to say that the Niners are righteous in this contract negotiation and Deebo's being outrageous because he's taking his photos off Instagram, yeah, you might think it's childish, but it doesn't mean that he's the one at fault for the situation going.
He's not. Pay the man his money. Melvin doing the good work, coming in at Rob. Always a quality show. Yes, it is. Randon and I love to kill it. You the man. I'm hitting that like button. I hope everyone else in the chat does the same. Melvin, we thank you. Doing the good work. Starco fan 212, sneakerhead here on the channel. I think summing up my beliefs of what ends up happening from all this Deebo drama. At Rob Schuh, I think the Niners will get something done. And all this drama on social media is just smoke. Athletes like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray have done something similar and nothing happened. I agree. It is a negotiation tactic. We just talked about the fact that it's a successful negotiation
Is Russell
tactic.
Wilson not a Denver Bronco?
Right. That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. But the point being that, the smoke of clearing your Instagram doesn't necessarily lead to that outcome, right? I mean, in that instance with Russell Wilson, it really wasn't the Kyler Murray situation. If I'm comparing and contrasting the two, there were rumors that he wanted out, but then he didn't really go that route of creating as much controversy. That's why I didn't think Russell Wilson was going anywhere. And the Kyler Murray was very much about public posturing. So to me, it does indicate or
But
back
Rob,
up the assertion that it's smoke.
Rob, you and I have both been in serious relationships,
We
right?
have. Not
Right?
with one another quite
No,
yet, but
outside of between two beers, we're not. But hey, if the woman like does the silent treatment and you definitely notice, you
yeah.
definitely notice that kind of stuff in the room, and the Niners are noticing that he's upset, which
Yes.
might get him what he wants.
It's a great way to show your displeasure. It is a great way. All right, so let's talk about his replacement. I mean, quite clearly, as they're about to trade Deebo. I'm kidding, people. I'm kidding. The 49ers have signed Malik Turner. This felt like something that should be covered, even though it may not be very exciting. It may not be the splash that 49er faithful are looking for. But here's the backdrop. He's an ex-Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, spent the last 2 seasons with Dallas, was with Seattle prior to that. He had 12 catches, 149 yards, and 3 touchdowns in 2021, 0 catches in 6 games played in 2020. He was an undrafted free agent out of Illinois. To me, there are 2 questions I have. Is this really anything more than a end of the wide receiver roster camp body? And does it prevent the 49ers from going wide receiver at some point in the draft?
No and no. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. They only had 4 wide receivers on the roster. Like they need at least 8 going into camp to run routes, to do all those kind of things, whether it's first team or second team. I do like his size. I do like his athletic ability. I do like his catch point with his hands from the minimal tape that I've watched. But he's nothing but maybe a 5th or 6th wide receiver, most likely a practice squad guy. But what I do like is that he thanked the Cowboys for all his time, and he said he's hungry to come. So, I mean, a guy that's trying to earn a spot, an undrafted guy, most of those times, those guys are hungry. And
they are.
And he
that
really
was like
didn't have
Trent Sherfield, right? Bringing the lunch pail to work every day.
Yeah, he didn't have a chance in Dallas, right? You had Amari Cooper, who's one of the best wide receivers in football, in my opinion. You had CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson. You had 2 running backs who you could argue are the top 20 at their position. Like you had a lot of guys that stood in the way of him catching footballs, and he still had a couple touchdowns. And so, yeah, he could earn his way on to, the 5th or 6th best guy, right? Mohamed Sanu had 1 touchdown catch, right? So,
right. I see
but he's young and he's hungry versus over 30 and just trying to soak up a spot.
You're right, not just hanging on to one of the last spots, but I do see him as potentially being that last body in the wide receiver room, that you have a veteran who brings some in-game experience and that he'll be fighting for that 5th or 6th spot in the end of the rotation for the 49ers, depending on who they bring in from the draft, depending on any injuries in camp. But I think we're in alignment that it is not a big needle-moving move for the 49ers. It is just a little bit of free agency news. Let's transition here and talk a little bit about Jimmy Garoppolo. I promise we will keep it sort of light and not talk about how he's going to get traded, not talk about where he's going to be traded. We're just going to go through the hypothetical of if he gets traded. What would happen after that huge sigh of relief, that collective sigh of relief that you would hear from 49er faithful of having that $25 million off of the books? Randon, where would you go with that money? You have $25 million all of a sudden freed up. There are still free agents available. The top 3 that are out there right now, according to whatever site it was I pulled this off of, Tyrann Mathieu, OBJ, Stephon Gilmore. After that, you got names like Jadeveon Clowney, Melvin Ingram, Jarvis Landry, J.C. Treader, Will Fuller, Julio Jones, Justin Houston, Melvin Gordon, Sheldon Richardson, and a couple ex-Niners that are still available, Jaquiski Tartt, Jason Verrett. If you got $25 million available to you and you're looking at that list of names, let's say they're still available at or after the draft when Jimmy gets moved, hypothetically, are you targeting any of those names? Are you avoiding any of those names? What excites you there?
So one thing is a definite possibility is that they tear up Deebo's contract and pay him this year to give him
front load it.
And front load it.
Yeah.
2 would be, I think the number 1 signing everybody's thinking is Mathieu, which I agree with. You need a ball hawk safety. But I'm going to go in a different direction here. I'm going to go Jadeveon Clowney.
Ooh, interesting.
And the reason being is that he's never played across from somebody as good as Nick Bosa. Well, actually, what was that?
JJ Watt.
JJ Watt. And but I'm saying that he doesn't have being a number one pick in Houston. All the
I can't honestly say they were healthy at the same time either. Like, I mean, JJ Watt was certainly injured during a couple of those years, and Clowney was most definitely injured during a couple of those first years.
But being the number one overall pick, there's pressure. There's no pressure coming to San Francisco, right? He's an afterthought. But he's had over 8 sacks every single year that he's been there, and he hasn't played with a perennial defensive line. I think you could get over 10 sacks for maybe 7 or 8 mil. After the draft, you sign him because teams don't want to pay that draft pick for signing a guy for that amount of money. So what is that, May 10th or whatever that cutoff is? After that, you could sign him for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million and have a all-pro talent across from Bosa just come in there. I know they're just throwing dolls right now on the other side. If you could have a real guy,
a legit threat.
Yeah. I
like that one. I would go a little cheaper on edge. I would go Melvin Ingram. I really like Melvin Ingram. I thought that it was a little bit odd that it didn't work out with the Steelers, but then you saw him with Kansas City in the second half of the season. And to me, that would be the kind of impact that he could have playing for the Niners, and a little bit cheaper with just slightly less injury history than Jadeveon. Not much less, but slightly less there. I would go that route. To me, the top 3 free agents, I know it's cheesy to say it, but quite honestly, if they were still available and you got 25 freaking million, Randon, you cannot tell me that the 49ers, if you added Tyrann Mathieu, Odell Beckham Jr. and Stephon Gilmore, would not be a freaking Super Bowl favorite, right? I mean, to add a ball hawking safety, to add an elite nickel cornerback to an already stacked defense, and then to add Odell Beckham Jr. just in time for a discounted playoff push at the end of the season, man, to me, I would target the 3 best available free agents with that 25 million. And you could get all signed on sort of front heavy, but not front loaded deals with that 25 million. To me, it would be a no-brainer. And a couple of value pieces. You could add in a Jason Verrett. You could add in a Will Fuller if you wanted to. That's one I have my eyes on for sure.
That's the one I would do over OBJ, because OBJ got injured late in the season.
Yeah, he's not going to be available until late in the season again.
Yeah, and you have a guy that you need a downfield threat. They don't have that downfield threat, right? Everybody's like, oh, Christian Watson in the draft. He's probably not going to get drafted by us unless we trade up. And then you have other guys that I like, but most likely they're not taking a wide receiver at 2.
Yeah.
And so for me, if they trade Jimmy at the draft, which is what we're talking about, I want some of that money available for the trade deadline, because we don't know where the injuries will happen in the midseason.
You got to be able to reload.
But I want, for me, it'd be Matthew and Will Fuller would be the 2 top.
I love those 2. Those are absolutely on my list.
But I think Clowney, if he gets his act together across from Nick Bosa, you could have 2 perennial 15-sack guys on both sides, to be honest.
Yeah, if he stays healthy and you're right, and responds to that lack of pressure on him, I think that could be a value. To me, I do worry about the health there. I got to bring it in because anytime anyone, throws out the compliment, Terror Dome talking about preach it. Yes,
there's
this
plenty of
OBJ
athletes.
won't be ready till November. That is correct. He's gone till November, as Wyclef Jean would say, gone till November. But that's why you would get him for a discounted rate, right? That's why you're going to be paying less. And there's been a story now. He coming out ATG 3 Rocks 7-2 saying OBJ had the same injury, same knee. This surgery apparently went well. You got to believe that hype in order to buy into it. But there was a story came out today or yesterday talking about his knee surgery going well this time when it didn't go well in 2020.
Yeah, and I think Lee Ving right underneath that said over under 6 quarters. Well, yeah, he's been injured every season, right? But
that's why you're going to get him at like a minimum deal, right?
The past two seasons in Houston, over under the Miami season, he had 11 games, 11 starts. but 11 games at 879 yards and 8 touchdowns. That means you're averaging 88 yards a game. Like
those are productive games.
He has a perennial talent, and I think it's something to be looked at with him because I don't think that he would get that much money on the open market. And OBJ is going to be a guy at the trade deadline when people sign. I think it's very interesting. And everybody here that, hey, we should just cut Jimmy G. Let's not cut Jimmy G before. There's no reason to cut him now. There really isn't, because people are waiting until after that deadline where they don't have to pay a compensation pick for
which is May 10th, I believe.
Yeah, so they're waiting until after the draft and all that kind of stuff like that. And then all they have to do is cut Jimmy before the start of the season, and then his money rolls over into next year, or his money goes into this season. So there's plenty of time for all that.
Plenty of time. It's stressful, but there's plenty of time.
Frustrated. I'm frustrated.
Yes.
I am frustrated.
Yes.
But let's be reasonable here and not just, hey, let's throw out random stuff.
Let's be reasonable is the request on a YouTube stream talking 49ers in the offseason. There's no reason here, Randon. There's no reason available to us. It is all hot takes all the time.
I type 2 random letters on Twitter and I get
abused. Terror Dome is still loving it, still saying I'm preaching. Ooh, Schuh shoots and scores with the Wyclef reference. Yes, I'm on fire today. It's probably the pain medication that I'm taking for the freaking hole in my face that occurred. No, I'm kidding. I didn't need anything other than a little bit of Tylenol. I almost took Advil, and thankfully I didn't, because apparently those NSAIDs, you got to stay away from that after surgery. You want to stick with the Tylenol, people. Consult your doctors.
Exactly.
Brandon, you're like, what? That was a sharp left, Rob. That was a sharp left
medical
turn.
Reference that I wasn't prepared for. All right.
All right. So to me, I'm targeting some of those. Are you interested in either one of the Niner players that I mentioned that are still available? You got Jaquiski Tartt and Jason Verrett still out there. Obviously, it takes 2 to tango. Jason Verrett has to decide he still wants to play, come back from another tough injury, and Jaquiski Tartt has to decide he wants to come back to the 49ers. But are you looking at either one of those as potential targets?
If Tyrann Mathieu doesn't have a market, then Jaquiski Tartt doesn't. So
right.
So the fact that you could probably wait till after the draft, if they find, Seen is my favorite safety out of the draft that we have an opportunity to draft. He's in the back end of the first. He might fall into the second. We'd have to probably trade up to get him, but he's my favorite safety. And so if they get a safety in the draft, then they don't have to get Tyrann Mathieu. But if they lose out on that and they get a guard or a wide receiver or an edge rusher and they get left at the altar for a safety, then maybe they have to get pushed in that position to get Tyrann after the draft.
I think that's
or Jaquiski.
Yeah, that's an astute observation. That's a solid plan. A little teaser here. I'm going on with Jack Hammer on his program at 7 p.m. tonight. We're doing a mock draft, and my first pick happens to nail that safety position down. But I would rather, if I'm honest, that we go a different direction. I would rather that the draft board fall a little differently. We go edge first and come grab Tyrann Mathieu. But he is that one player where I think there's a chance he's gone. Him, Stephon Gilmore, they may be gone by May 10th. A team may fall in love. Like Carolina is currently, somebody's flirting with Stephon Gilmore.
No, Carolina. And yes, I was on 5 guys in a 6-pack, which is a good NFL. So a lot of Niners content creators like No Butter Sports and Bay Area Baller and a bunch of other guys. We do just an NFL show on Tuesdays.
Nice.
And I said yesterday, the number 1 signing is still Stephon Gilmore, and I think the Indianapolis Colts should get him. Guess who he visited today?
Boom.
Indianapolis. Boom.
Predicting it.
Hot takes right here.
Predicting it. Admin honor. I mean, this wasn't in response to that, but Randon thumbs up. That was from much earlier, but it's deserved yet again. With this most recent development. William Bennett coming in with the super chat, sneakerhead here on the channel and regular caller on the sneakerhead call in show. Hope you're doing well, my guy. I am William. Thank you for asking. Liked, subscribe, stop playing, buy the man his money. And if they will give Jimmy his money for being a passenger in the car, give Deebo the bag for fricking driving it. I'm finishing the sentence there for you, William. I agree. I mean, Deebo has earned this money. I want Deebo to get paid. We have handed out some suspect contracts in the past. This one doesn't feel suspect to me. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you wishing me well. I appreciate you liking the video and subscribing, because that is always important to help Randon and I amplify our message. And I agree. To me, it's not about Jimmy. I'm leaving that deal out of it. But yes, pay Deebo his money. It's a priority for me this offseason.
Truth.
Yes, it's like
Or
in
slime,
Dazed
as
and
they say
Confused,
nowadays.
where the priorities were Aerosmith tickets. In this particular summer scenario, the priority is paying Deebo Samuel. I'm guessing there are a lot of people who did not get that reference right there.
Dazed and confused so long, it's not true. Yeah.
Yes. All right. We're going to wrap up on this one, which means we're pushing the past performance and future value out one more week. That segment just will not end. We'll get it next week, I promise. But Mike McGlinchey came out in response to being accused of being quite skinny. I can relate, as a reasonably skinny dude, that you throw out the occasional picture and people are like, what do you weigh? $160 soaking wet. And Mike McGlinchey had that picture come out where it did honestly look like he weighed 250, sub 250. I mean, it was an angle where he had his arms back and they were around someone else. So part of his sides were covered by the two people on either side of him. But I'll be honest, I looked at it and I was like, yeah, Mike looks skinny. Mike looks a little bit like Joe Staley after retirement. So I didn't freak out over it as some people did, but I understood why people were questioning it. I understood why. And now today, Mike McGlinchey in response puts out a freaking indicator of his health with that video running under resistance, doing some pretty good lifting there as well. Randon, what'd you think?
Yeah, people look at the photo and they're like, oh, well, he's not 300 pounds. Like, he's not ready to play, all this kind of stuff. And saying that he's a lighter tackle, right? And then he put up weight and then he's like, oh, well, hey, you put up 20 extra pounds, but you're not as good in the run game. Like, you're not a perennial run blocker anymore, but you're a better pass blocker. Like, he can't win. He can't win with fans, to be honest. And I'm going to be 100% honest. He's not worth the 9th overall pick. He hasn't been so far. But he's a starting tackle in this league. He's a top 32 tackle in this league. And we have 2 of them on our team. And so you're looking at a guy who had one of the worst quad injuries of all time, off the bone.
Yeah, nasty when you think about it.
Where do most of the weight go for people who are big? In their legs, in their ass, in their, like, he's not working out because he's reconditioning. And if anybody's torn a muscle or any of those, reconditioning isn't lifting weights. Reconditioning is making sure that your muscle fibers are ready to go in order to lift weights. So I don't know where he's at in that spectrum, because that's his business, but he did look light. Like, he looked 210. I'm like, dude, you look like me.
And the picture was definitely an optical illusion. It had to be.
But fans shouldn't panic, because I'm not a personal trainer. I don't know how long that injury lasts. I don't know where he's on the spectrum. You got to assume that he's getting paid guaranteed money to be on the field as a fan, and he should be there. I think a lot of people are upset the fact that they're so worried about everything else with Deebo and the offensive line not being that good. And all this kind of stuff, that it's just a sprinkle or the straw that broke the camel's back.
One more freaking thing? You're going to give me one more thing to freak out about?
I'm not a fan of any other fan base besides the Niners.
Well, why should you be? The rest are trash.
But what perennial Super Bowl winning or Super Bowl roster that the Niners have been, like 2 NFC championship games in the last 3 years, has this much drama in the offseason? Like,
it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable how much stuff we have to talk about.
And I kid other fan bases. They're all great. But Chris Royal coming in, McGlinchey looking like Gumby in that picture. Yeah, it was. I'm just thrilled that I keep delighting Terror Dome because of my references throughout this show. Terror Dome coming in, shoes, killing it tonight. Aerosmith reference, Jordan flu game vibes going on here. I love that. I absolutely love that.
You always kill it, Rob. You always kill it.
Always. But, sometimes when you're, a little under the weather, as Fazil coming in asking, hope all is well with you, Rob. It is. Just had a minor procedure. Got 6 stitches underneath this little Band-Aid, but the Band-Aid will be off in a couple of days, and you guys will get to view the stitches for the rest of the week, because I'm just going to be sort of a pirate. I'll start every video like, "Arr." That'll just be the vibe.
Yeah, do it. And you always throw up. So we'll get my headphones here. But Mammoth, right? Mammoth Mountain, California. Throw it out. Good letter last summer. I love Mammoth. If any Niners fans are in Mammoth, you have a beautiful place to live. I'll tell you that.
Wait, look at this. I've riled up the other fan bases. The Rams fans are here. Rams ain't running back a damn thing. Oh, wait, no, that's not a Rams fan. Wait, are Niners fans divas? I mean, we might be. We do like the drama. We are. I don't know if we're divas. We're not quite wide receivers, but we are. Maybe we overreact. Our fan base. I don't want to
pump his. Yeah, I don't want to pump his tires anymore. But there's a fan on Twitter that named the top 100 Jimmy sexuals. Like, how much time do you have on your hands? Like that. That's a lot
of time. Literally named 100.
Yeah.
That's just wild. Jaguayo 56 coming in at Rob. If Jimmy gets traded and we sign some vets, would we think about signing another veteran quarterback, or do we ride and die with Sudfeld? Jalen Moore, right tackle. I do think, so here's my thing with McGlinchey. I'll close out that topic in thinking that if the Niners don't take a tackle early in the draft, I set this as them believing McGlinchey will be back sooner rather than later, and they're confident in Jalen Moore. So that's addressing sort of the end of this statement.
I agree
first. With that. I think we ride or die with Sudfeld. As soon as we gave him $2 million guaranteed, that was no longer practice squad money. That was backup quarterback money. And I think it's okay as a strategy in that it alleviates some of the pressure from Lance. Now, all of that is undone by having Jimmy freaking Garoppolo still on the roster, but I don't believe that will be the case when we get into preseason, into actual training camp. I believe he will be gone before it becomes an issue. So, yeah, I think it's ride or die with Sudfeld, and then depending on whether we draft a tackle early, they have faith in someone like Jalen Moore or, one of the other backups at the position, a Justin School or someone else.
The only team that I can remember who ever won a Super Bowl with a backup was Nick Foles. Off the top of my head.
Right. There are some others that exist prior to that, but you'd have to go back in the annals of NFL history in order to pull them out.
Yeah, but nobody's asking who's the backup for Tom Brady, who's the backup for Aaron Rodgers, who's the backup. Like, nobody's asking that. If the Niners really want to win, they have to treat Trey Lance like he's a perennial All-Pro and go all in. Like, that's what it is. If he loses, do we really win the Super Bowl with Andy Dalton or Tyrod Taylor or any of those guys? No, we don't. So what's the point in having a $10 million backup? Let's just have Nate Sudfeld.
It's a couple of games here or there, right? If Trey, if something happens to Trey, that's your season. That's often the case in the NFL. That's the reality, and you can adjust midstream, right? To your idea that if you have some cap flexibility mid-season, if something happens, you could add another quarterback.
I'd rather get Phillip Rivers out of retirement than have Nate Sudfeld. If Trey Lance gets injured for the whole season, yeah, let's get Phillip Rivers out of his coaching job and put him behind the helm.
Yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. Joshua coming in with the suggestion to change up the left shoe to the left patch. I would actually, Joshua, have to go with the right patch, so it would be the left shoe with the right patch, but it would work. I mean, we could really go that direction. The problem with using left or right in your name is people automatically include it has something to do with frickin' politics. And all I can say is it has nothing to do with politics. I don't want to talk politics on a sports show. Let's talk Niners instead. And that's what we do here. That's why people love us, Randon.
Although you could do an eye patch and then a shoe for a t-shirt idea.
That's not a bad idea. A little merch out there. All right. Well, this has been a fantastic show. As I said, we will be putting the past performance, future value segment down the road one more time, and we will hit it next week. As always, if I didn't say it before, I'll say it right now emphatically. Randon's details are down below to go follow him on Twitter. Subscribe to his Cerberus Sports YouTube channel. And go over there and hit that subscribe and notification bell. Randon, do you have some dope shows coming up?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm under 50 subscribers. There's no way. I've been on Between Two Beards for over 3 months. There's no reason I should be under 50 subscribers. So please go over there, subscribe. I just did an A's show on Monday. I have another NBA preview for the playoff show tomorrow night. So come by and like and subscribe.
Yes, you know him, you love him, go subscribe to him. And as Starco fan points out, like the video on your way out. As you're leaving here, hit that like button. Raphael 562 Niners, great show, gentlemen. Thank you, Raphael. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate all the well wishings. Again, if you're watching and wondering why I have the the bandage on. No, I did not get assaulted. It was just a small procedure. I'm on the mend. I will be much better. You'll get to see the stitches later on in the week. I know people are looking forward to that, Randon.
I do. I think HR for subbing. I'm at 44.
Nice. Chris and HR are both on the Randon train, as should you all. Gabriel pointing out, if I'm doing merch, it's got to be one that says Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Indeed, it does, my friends. All right, I'll be on with Jack Hammer on his program in 12 minutes doing my first mock draft. I will have my first mock draft on this channel coming up shortly as well. There'll be a lot of mocks. A lot of mocks. It's mock
We're probably
season.
doing a mock. I don't know. Who knows?
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the well wishes. Randon, as always, an absolute pleasure having you on here, sir. And you know the drill, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, cheers, Niner faithful.
Go Niners.